Welcome to Life with the Impact podcast. I am THUMEKA, and this podcast is where we open up and we have a conversation about honest conversations about life, about growth, and growing in Christ, and everything in between that pertains to life. Today we have a lovely guest, a young lady by the name of Jade Owen Thomas, and a lady who has experienced trauma and grief in her young years. And but what's amazing is that this is something that was enough to set her off and send her off the wrong path. But then she chose to rise above, and there's more from her. And I'll hand over to her, and she'll tell you who she is, an introduction, and over to you.
Thank you so much
Yes,
for having me here today,
you're
THUMEKA.
welcome.
It is such a beautiful
Yeah.
space and it's so incredible to be here
Yeah.
on this journey
Mm,
and to have aligned with you at
mm,
this point in my life. It is incredible what
yeah.
God can do and the
Mm,
people that He brings you along the way. And it was completely unexpected, but
sure.
something
Yeah.
I never knew I needed. And it's just, I'm so grateful to be here today.
I am glad that you are here.
Me too.
Jade Owen Thomas.
Yes.
Such an
Yeah.
interesting name. Owen Thomas, I see it's double barrel.
It is. I have no idea where it comes from,
Oh,
but my family is from Poland and England, so I assume somewhere along the lines of that.
somewhere along the
Somewhere
line.
along the lines.
Right. So, tell us a bit more about yourself. So, what you do, and yeah, just in your everyday life, what do you look forward to on a daily? What gets you going? What is your drive? What is Jade Thomas about?
So, I am a 21-year-old life coach,
Mm-hmm.
something I never thought I would say. It's
Yeah.
something I never planned for in my life, and honestly, it has been the greatest blessing of my life to be able to do what I do at such a young age
Mm.
and to look forward to so many things in my life too. And
Yeah.
a day to day for me looks like coaching, but it also looks like studying. I'm studying a Bachelor of Human Resources degree too, and so I study that online. I'm in my third year. A day in the life for me also looks like reading, self
Mm.
care. It looks like going on adventures and
Mm.
doing everything that I would want a 21-year-old Jade to do,
Mm.
but doing things that I know no other 21-year-old does too.
Yeah.
And so my everyday looks like running my own business called
Mm.
Kind Conscious, and
Yes.
it's an online coaching platform.
Mm.
And it looks like running this company, posting on social media, connecting with communities, connecting with people,
Mm.
and just spreading the word of you can do this.
Yeah.
You are capable of doing this no matter your circumstances, no matter where you come from, no matter where you've been. And for me, becoming this life coach in this point in my life, it came from a lot of loss. It didn't come from coming out of school with the perfect family, with a normal life. It came from a very deep-seated loss from a young age. And this loss was, I lost my mom when I was 9 years old.
Sure.
She had cancer, and I watched her suffer for many, many years. And her body gave up. And a few years later, my father fell ill. He was diabetic and he wasn't taking care of his body.
Mm.
He wasn't taking his medication. He was drinking too much alcohol, and
Mm.
he had brought a partner into his life too, and she was also an alcoholic. And so when my mom passed away, this is who I was left with, a father who didn't really know how to raise a daughter. He had never done it before. He wasn't really planning on doing it alone, and his partner who didn't want children. And they both drank a lot every single day. And when my dad fell ill, she sort of stepped out of my life, and I was left to be his caregiver from the age of 14. And so when I wasn't at
Wait,
school,
you're 14
I was 14.
and you are now put into this situation where you have an ill father and you now have to look after him. N- Look, I have a 13-year-old who's turning 14, and my goodness. I mean, we argue about mundane things, you know. Him even having to tidy his room properly is an issue. But now, like, you know, things that 13 and 14-year-olds are meant to go through, but I wouldn't expect that at 14. You're now looking after an adult. who is severely sick, I can imagine.
He
And
was.
so it was the two of you living together.
It was the two of us living together, and his partner, she would come and go, mainly during the night, but
Yeah.
she was living with us too. She moved in 1 month after my mom passed. No, 10 months, sorry. 10 months
10
after my
months
mom
after your mom
passed away.
passed away.
And so it was a very abrupt move in, and I was very young and I didn't understand it. And when my dad was ill, he had something called diabetic foot. And what happened was he would have to go through multiple amputations. And so he was having his limbs get cut off. He was having toes get cut off one by one. And then at the very end, after me looking after him, and looking after him for me entailed in the morning, I would dress him, I would cook for him, I would clean up after him, I would help clean him, I do everything for him. And a big part of that role was also having to give him his cigarettes, give him his alcohol, like make sure it was ready for him when he came home. And I would go into, these bottle stores at a young age. My dad would send me there because he couldn't walk properly, and so he would send me there. And in the end, he was on crutches the whole time. I mean, even for my matric dance, he couldn't be there because he went blind and he couldn't see me in my dress, and so he couldn't see me. And that was at the very end. And so after the 4 years, I was in matric. I was writing finals. During finals, my dad fell very, very ill, and that's when his leg ended up having to be amputated. And during this point, he had paid so much for surgeries. I mean, some amputations, 250,000 rand per surgery, and the medical aid wasn't covering everything. And so he landed up going to private hospitals and government hospitals. And during that point, when he had his leg amputated, he couldn't afford to pay for our home anymore. And so we lost our home while I was writing my final exams, and he didn't tell me. And I was staying with one of his friends just to be closer to school. And the night before my final geography exam, I had called him, and I found out he was sleeping on the floor at work, and he had nowhere to go, and he had one leg, and he was on the floor at work. And I was at this friend's house. My dogs were taken away from me, my animals were gone, and I had to write my exams, and I got 5 distinctions at the end of it.
In the midst of that turmoil, which is what it sounded like, and indeed it is what it was, you came out with 5 distinctions.
I missed 7 by 4%.
No way.
It was my biggest downfall at the end of it. I was so upset.
Oh, look at that. So
Yeah.
congrats and well done to you.
Thank you.
And I think this also speaks to the fact that, in life you could be going through the most traumatic or taxing ordeal. But I mean, you still had to apply yourself academically at school.
I did. I really did. And it was so interesting because he actually ended up passing away 2 months after I finished matric. That's when he passed away, and I got a call at like 11 o'clock at night to tell me. And I had just gotten my results back, and he was so proud. He was so proud of me. And what I'm so grateful for is that he got to come to that final prize giving, and he got to watch me go through, like getting those awards. And I was top 1% nationally for 2 subjects. And so seeing his face and just that, like, that's one of my final memories of him.
Yes.
And just that experience for him, that is something that I really hold so deeply to my heart.
Dear, and I'm sure. So here's my understanding when it comes to our loved ones who have passed on, because we are spirit beings, right?
Yes.
Having an earthly experience, so living in an earth suit. So I call this the earth suit. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. And so when the time is done here on earth, the soul transitions. You go home, or some people would say you get promoted to glory, but you leave the earth suit behind, but you still journey on.
Yeah.
And wherever they are, I believe they are proud of you, both mom and dad. And I think it's important to state this as well, that I've seen, not just heard, but people who are older than you are,
Mm.
okay, who have lost just one parent. Look, I'm not trying to weigh situations, and everything breaks loose. Like they cannot handle it and they can't deal with it. Some of them struggle to move on for quite some time or see the light at the end of the tunnel. And here's the thing though, grief is different for everybody.
It is.
And and this is just to say that looking at you at 21 years of age, don't have your mom physically here, not your dad physically here, but you are still hopeful. You're still spreading a message of hope. You still spread kindness. You didn't choose bitterness. You could have been a bitter soul.
Very
And
much.
blamed everybody for everything that goes wrong in life. And
Yeah.
but you decided to, yes, grief will take you to places. You question a lot. You have to feel it. And the thing is about grief, you must go through it. You know,
You don't. You have two choices. You either go through it or you just stop.
there we go.
There's no
Wow.
choice.
There's no choice, and there's no one way remedy or
Mm.
formula. Like I say, it's different. We've
Mm.
all lost loved ones. Some of us have lost kids. Some have lost parents, spouses, partners,
Mm.
grandparents, whatever the case is. And I've seen what grief has done to people.
Yeah.
I've experienced grief as well. And my God, I was like, how am I going to get through this?
Mm.
But guess what? But with hope on our side and with having the right people, I hope you did have the right people around you, circle around you to encourage you, because we need to draw strength from somewhere, right?
I did, and what's interesting is I didn't have a big circle to draw strength from. I have a very small family. My
Oh, wow.
grandparents passed away too.
Yeah.
My grandpa actually 2 months before my mom, and I lost my grand before that. I lost my best friend in a car accident at a young
Sure.
age, and I went through a lot of loss. Like I lost so many people in my life, whether it was family, friends, like people that I relied on. And so when it came down to that final loss, which was my dad, a lot of my strength actually came from being with my animals, which is quite
Oh
weird
yes,
for
because I
me.
read in your bio where you are a lover of animals.
I really am, and
Yes.
just having them around, and I really think like having an animal, like to wake up in the morning and be like, I have another life to look after, like I have another
Wow.
life to care for, and just that reminder of unconditional love, because parents give you that unconditional love,
Yes,
and
they do.
you can get that from other people, but it's never the same. It can't be the same.
Yeah.
And so I was really searching for that, and I was looking for that in all of the people around me, and I had some incredible friends who were with me during the process, but they were also so young.
Of course.
They were 17, 18,
I mean, look
and
at that.
they could only do so much. And
Yes.
some of their families like try to step in and do a little bit, but everyone could only do so much. And so a lot of my strength, I guess, was drawn from a circle, but it was little bit by little bit of everything that I had around me, and I was just focusing on what do I still have, because at the time it felt like I had nothing. It felt like everything was taken away from me.
Understandably
And so I was looking for whatever I could find, whatever I could rummage around and be like, I still have this, there's still something to hold on to. And
hold on to.
I did find a lot of that, but I found it through God, especially. I found it through speaking with Him and asking for guidance all the time. I found a lot of my hope in that, because I knew
Sure.
that that would always be there.
Certainly.
It would always be there for me to rely on.
And that is amazing. I am so inspired by you. They say, and this has absolutely nothing to do with age. Because you, a 21-year-old like yourself, could have experienced, life could have throws curveballs and at a person, and that you've experienced what maybe some people in their 40s haven't even experienced or gone through in the area of grief and trauma and loss specifically.
Yeah.
But I am so encouraged by you, and you having to stand tall and decide that you will be a better person is what is important at the end of the day. And you didn't wallow in self pity.
I didn't.
Because a lot of people, we can potentially decide to be that. But you decided that, I mean, geez, when you said certified life coach and all these other amazing things that you are, and I thought, hang on. How did she do this? But I believe that innately it comes from within, right?
It
And
does.
it does.
Yeah.
And what God has planted and bestowed in you. And this is when it comes out and you realize, but hang on. When you look back and you look at the season you were going through and you say to yourself, it could only have been God. And you realize certain strengths about yourself that you didn't know you possessed.
Mm, I did, and you're so right. Just listening to that really like touched my heart, and it reminds me of becoming a life coach. You know, that journey of actually getting to the point where I'm going to be a life coach, and I'm 18 years old, and I'm going to start this journey. Like my dad had passed away, I was like, I'm supposed to be going to university. I cannot like wake up without crying right now. Like how am I supposed to send myself by myself to university? I got into Stellenbosch, I got into UP, I got into all of the universities. I got bursaries and I couldn't go. I could not get myself to go, and I don't know how much you know about being an executor of an estate, but I was left to be the executor of my father's estates, and so I was dealing with the lawyers. I was dealing with the whole process of his estate that he left behind, and so for a year I dedicated myself to doing that, and I wanted to travel. I couldn't leave the country because I had to be here with the lawyers. And so I just took the year focusing on myself, but getting there, it's like choosing now. I was like, I'm going to do psychology because, you know, that's what everybody does. Like people, like if they want to go on this journey, they choose psychology. And I was like, how am I going to fund a 7-year degree on my own with no backup? And I was just like, there has to be a way that I can do this faster and help people sooner, because I knew that I had everything I needed emotionally to help these people. I had that strength in me. And so I said, life coaching. And instead of just doing life coaching, I ended up studying 6 different qualifications in and around mental health and life coaching, which took me 2 years. And I was like, okay, but I also want to have a bachelor's degree, and I love humans and I love business, and so I was like, let's do HR. And so I started studying HR at the same time, and I was really like, I'm gonna upskill myself, and I know that I can do this. But it started so young, knowing I had that empathy in me. I always had so much empathy. I always had so much kindness to give, so much love to give, and it would always be spilling out of me.
That is
and
amazing.
I knew this was my calling.
Because there we go, your calling. Because one can't pour from an empty cup.
No, you can't.
You can't give what you don't have, and this is why I say again, it's an innate thing.
It is.
It's when God put you together, He knew these are the attributes, and this is how they will, with what you've experienced in life, but this is how they will come out to favor you for His glory. Because we are here, in life. We had this conversation with one of my superiors, and it said, until we realize that life is with what you've acquired, okay, the abilities, the skills, the gifts and the talents, it's so much bigger than you.
It is.
It's not about you.
It's not.
It never is, really. It is always bigger. And at times, okay, I have this skill, I have this talent, but it's for me to utilize it for the rest of the world, or the people that God sends our way, or to fulfill a certain purpose or an assignment. Because after all, that is what we're here for.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why I was never angry with God. A lot of people who lose somebody are so angry with God for what He's done. And it's not what He's done, it's what He's doing for you.
Sure.
And so I was never angry. I was honestly so grateful that I got to go through this. And I know that it is not said, but I knew it as a young child that I was not going to have my parents around. I watched them, and honestly, it looked like a suicide mission. It really did. That's what I saw in both of my parents with what they were doing to themselves. And so I knew that I was going to have to do this alone. but it's almost like I could prepare myself. And so when it happened, I wasn't angry with God,
Yeah.
because I'm like, you gave them everything they needed, and I know that you will still be here for me.
Certainly.
And so that anger just turned into such peace. And that's why
look
going
at
through
that.
that, I was like, I need to show other people that they can do this too, that they can be peaceful too. They
So,
don't have to be angry.
indeed, you turned your pain into purpose.
I did.
Sure. Look at that. But I do know that, as people, there are mantles that are placed upon us. And some we discover younger, in their younger years, and others still figuring themselves out. Um, but here you are, and I will say, may God continue to strengthen you and guide you. May He
Thank
continue
you.
to elevate you, and this is when you know that you are aligning with your destiny. It's the peace that comes with it, right?
It is.
Stuff that money can't buy
No.
at all.
Not at all.
You can't fake it. You can't put it on. This is where you know that, okay, this is destiny designed for me, and this is now me aligning with purpose. I have a few questions, and I will not go in any particular order, but um, I'm just going to randomly ask some of these questions, and then you can answer them to the best of the way you feel.
Amazing.
Do you, Jade, have any daily affirmations? And if yes, can you share at least 2 or 3 of them?
I actually do, and I wouldn't call them necessarily affirmations
Yeah.
for me in the way that I do them, but the first thing I've done every single day for the past 3 years, which has helped me so much, is I do breath work, or you
Okay.
could even call it meditation in the morning, and I breathe and I say, thank you, God. Thank you for having me here another day on this earth. And I just say and I smile. You have to smile
Gratitude.
when you say it, because you're like thankful I'm
Yes.
here. And it's a learning that came from many people I was close to not being here and not being able to wake up and be like, wow, I'm alive. That's amazing.
Right.
And so every day I breathe slowly, I listen to some calming music, and I thank God. And I visualize what I want my day to look like. I visualize the beautiful conversations I hope to have. I visualize the beautiful tasks I'm going to do, and
Look
I
at
align
that.
myself right when I wake up to how I want my day to look.
Oh.
That's the first one. The second one is, it's a belief, and it is the stories you tell yourself about yourself become your reality.
Indeed.
And so I see this so much in myself sometimes, and in a lot in other people too. And I see it everywhere I look, and it can be from the small things of like, oh, this person didn't respond to my message. They must hate me. They're probably really angry with me. They think something's wrong with me. Meantime, that person's probably visiting maybe their gran, and they don't want to be on their phone, or they're stuck in traffic.
There's so many other reasons to
And
it.
so
Yeah.
I try and remove myself from drawing so much energy of myself during the day that isn't focused on, what that is happening, because not everything you think is actually reality. And so that is another one that I believe.
Nice.
And my third, we could call affirmation. This is something that I actually acquired through learning quite young, but it is life is just a word. You give it meaning.
Oh.
And that,
say that again.
life is just a word. You give it meaning.
Beautiful.
And that is how I set myself up for the day, to endless possibilities, endless opportunities, whoever is meant to be there. And it allows me to take back the power that it feels like when you go through grief, that your power is taken away from you, that there is literally nothing you can do, which there is nothing you can do.
Yeah.
But that allows me to give the power. I'm still here. I still have a life to live. I still have so many beautiful things that I want to do. And so that is what I set myself up with every single day.
Oh, my goodness. I will be taking up with so many take-homes. Right. And there's another one. If there's a room where people have to speak about you in your absence, what do you want them to say or speak of Jade? What do you want to be known for? What would you hope they say in your absence?
That's an amazing question. Thank you. I would really love them to say Jade was the most genuine, kindest soul that I ever met.
Yeah.
Jade is somebody who loves so unconditionally, whether it is people, animals, nature, God. She just loves and she gives everything her all. Jade is somebody who has been through so much but will forever see the light in the darkness. And that is not just for the situations and the circumstances, but that is the people too.
Yeah.
She will always see the light in the person, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're saying, there is always light.
There's always
And
light.
so I would really love people to just say that Jade made an impact on me and the people around me.
Look at that. Jade made an impact and she sees light in people. And there are times where people don't even see it in themselves. You get that so many times and you're thinking, how are you missing who you are? Like, can't you see?
Exactly. There's so much to you.
There's so much more to you. Like, really, I'm seeing it. And this is why sometimes we just send out love, positive energy. And Christ says that we are the hands and feet. The Word of God says we are the hands and feet of Christ. So and that's by that, and we just need to represent Him. That even when people are experiencing whatever they're going through, we still show love.
Yes.
And we may not always get the same love back, but it's you do what you feel is right and important. But I guess that's just life anyway. Here's another statement that I heard, and this stuck with me about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a temporary memory loss. Now, I know that imposter syndrome creeps on everybody, creeps in on everybody rather. And so imposter syndrome, I'll repeat, is a temporary memory loss where you have forgotten all the amazing things about yourself in that moment. So what would you say is your go-to method when dealing with imposter syndrome, when it just creeps up on you, and those lying words of you're not good enough, you can't do it, or you think you're good enough, or whatever the case is. So how do you deal with that?
I must say I've gotten a lot of that since I became a life coach, in my own mind and what I'm telling myself, the stories I'm telling myself, because at the end of the day it is stories. It's not the truth. It's not real. And so I've seen it a lot when I've walked into an industry where most life coaches are in their 50s and 60s, and now my clients are in their 50s and 40s, and I'm thinking, oh my word, I am like less than half their age. Not that it matters, but when it comes to the time, sometimes I'm like, oh my word, I'm half their age, and I'm sitting here saying, this is what I recommend, and let me help you and let me guide you. My brain is saying, Jade, like, who do you think you are? Like, how are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And I tell myself such horrible stories. And so when I do that, I've had to learn in order to actually do this job and do my calling. But I've learned to first take a deep breath, let those emotions out. Don't judge them. Don't try and push them away. Don't force them out. Just acknowledge them. Acknowledge that this is a thought that is coming into my mind. It's an awareness. Don't claim it. Don't claim it to be yours.
I like that. Don't claim it. Ooh.
Don't claim it, because then it will become yours.
Yes.
And I breathe it out and I say, you know what? I am an amazing person. I am an incredible life coach. And look how much I've been through. Look at the experiences. I am just as qualified as a 50-year-old life coach. On paper, I'm just as qualified. Yes, we have different life experiences, but that's the beautiful part. We have different life experiences. And so that's my go-to method, and it's helped me. It still helps me every single day.
That is so powerful. Words, because we know words create, words can build, words can destroy. And then that just brings me to the power of words. Everything is in existence because God spoke a word. So I like that. Don't claim it, So you still possess the power to decide what stays and what goes.
Yes.
Breathe and let it go. I love that. I absolutely love that. And here's another one. So some things are temporary. Some things are lessons. And some things are meant to show you who you are and what you are here for. So, what are the lessons that have helped shape who you are today or shaped your outlook on life? I mean, there's so many lessons that we go through in life, but can you mention at least one? Mm.
I have two lessons that really stand out to me, and the first one is forgiveness is everything. And I learned that through having to forgive myself, having to forgive the younger version of Jade for not knowing, for not understanding, for not having everything figured out, because I could live in bitterness for the rest of my life for how I reacted to things, how I did things, the choices I did make, the choices I didn't make. Yeah. I could be angry at God. I could be angry at the people around me for not living to the expectations that I had of them. I could live with so much bitterness until the day I die. And forgiveness is something that I've had to embody, because if I don't, I will die in so much bitterness. And I want to live in peace. That is what I truly want. And so that has been a big lesson that I've had to learn over and over again until I finally got it. I got it.
Look at that.
And I really want to share that to other people, because it's something that I hope everyone can get at some point.
Yeah, no, because I know of so many people that struggle with forgiveness. And funny you mentioned that as a lesson, because with unforgiveness, unforgiveness opens up to so many unpleasant things. It's like a portal that just then opens up to all the negativities. I mean, I've heard stories of people who fell ill due to unforgiveness.
That's what happened with my parents. That's where that learning actually started. I watched their bitterness kill them.
Oh.
And it makes you sick. And even now, I feel in my body when I'm angry, when I'm upset, when that feeling comes up, you can ask my partner at home, I literally feel sick. Like I get headaches, I feel nauseous. And as soon as I breathe and I relax, it goes away.
It goes away.
But it's hard to explain. People don't believe it.
Wow.
But it's real.
It's possible. It's real. You can deal with unforgiveness and bitterness because it breeds. It like invites everything.
Does.
You know. Then there's bitterness. Then there's, you know, all the things that really the body can't contain. Okay. Before we continue, I have an aunt who used to say, "It's scripture. Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of your heart flows the issues of life." Now, you need to be mindful. My aunt would say, the heart is such a small muscle. She's like, why should we burden it with so many things that are heavy and toxic? You know, let the heart be. And when she put it in that context, she's like, just, you know, so it can pump blood to the rest of your body properly. Like, I just love her explanation.
That's a beautiful explanation.
Indeed it is. She's like, look at it, a small muscle. And here you are now, filling it up with all the nastiness. And you know how heavy bitterness and unforgiveness is. But and the Bible tells us when Jesus says forgive 70
very
times,
right.
70 times, he understands why it's so important.
But he's emphasizing
I think he really puts emphasis. That is well said. I mean, it's him putting emphasis on it. And it's important. It's for our own good, by the way.
It is. And even with the forgiveness, my other lesson sort of correlates to forgiveness in a way, but it is everything is temporary. Yes. And that is one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn. And it's not even just about death or loss, but it's like everything around us in this world is temporary for in this world at this point. True. And so that leads you to being present in the moment. And being present has been the most important thing in my life. I'm not focusing on what I'm going to do in the future or what happened in the past. It drains so much of your energy.
Indeed it
and
does.
So just being present, because you know that everything is temporary, and giving all of your love and your attention and your focus into right now has been one of the most powerful things I've been able to do for myself.
Look at that. And it all boils down to being intentional about it and making choices about it.
Yes.
And it's a daily sort of, like I say, you have to be intentional about being better and doing better. Even when scripture tells us, when Jesus says, life and death, also lies in the power of the tongue. So in actual fact, we control so much. We can be in control of so much, more than we even know or realize. But I think that's why life is just a journey. And this is why when we come into contact with other people, I always look at an individual and I ask myself, because I'm open to learning. What
Yeah.
can I learn from this person? What can I take away from this person, regardless of age? I always say that you can learn from a minor.
There's a lot to learn
There's
from
a
them,
lot.
especially.
That is so true. Right. So, ability and capability are not the same thing. So, just because you aren't able to do something right now doesn't mean you are not able to do it in the near future. With that said, this means that one can always learn and upskill themselves. So, how important is upskilling or self development to you?
Mm. Wow, I love that question because it is so important to me. It's actually been a value that was instilled in me from a young age,
Yeah.
and it came from learning that my mom, she didn't finish school,
Sure.
and my dad, he failed twice, 2 grades, and he redid so many things in school, and they still created their own businesses. They
Yeah.
still made their success. They traveled the world. They got to do so many beautiful things, and so they taught me how important having learning and upskilling is in your
Yeah.
everyday life, and I took that and I ran with it. I really did.
Amazing.
I mean, I started with school. I was always trying to overachieve. I was a big overachiever with academics, especially. I was always getting colors, and at the end, with my matric results, and then deciding to do the life coaching and the Bachelor of Human Resources, and still in the future I want to study another degree, and there's so much I want to upskill. But the thing that I've actually had the most upskilling from is people. People on my everyday conversations. I learn from my clients. I learn from my peers. I learn from people who are older than me, younger than me, like you were just saying. And that upskilling has been the most important thing for me, because I learn more than I could ever learn from a textbook, more than I could ever learn from academics or history. I learn from the present moment. I learn from reading too.
Yes.
And so for me, upskilling is so important, because that means you get to upskill someone else.
There we go. Oh, wow. I love that. I love that. Now that you said in reading, now it brings me to my next question. Do you have any favorite authors? If yes, can you at least share two of them and why?
Yes, I read every day. So after I finish my morning meditation slash breath work, I read. I try and read 1 to 2 chapters a day, just little bites every day. And one of my favorite all-time authors who got me really so much through the grief of losing basically my whole life, my identity, my dad, my whole world as I knew it, everything fell apart. This author, his name is Michael Singer, and he has 2 books, The Surrender Experiment and Untethered. And he taught me what it looks like to surrender. And it is not giving up. He does not teach to give up, but he teaches to have a goal, but to let go of the outcome.
Ooh,
Don't
have a
attach to
goal,
it.
but let go of the outcome.
And so he taught me to relax, release, and surrender. And that has been the most incredible thing, because now if somebody doesn't fulfill, this thing they said they would do, or a goal doesn't come out exactly the way, it's like, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Because I surrendered to it before it even happened.
Ooh.
I let go of that outcome. I'm not attached to the outcome anymore. And so it reduces my disappointment, it reduces my anger.
Nice.
And so his books have been amazing for that. And my second favorite author is actually a book I'm reading now. His name is Eckhart Tolle. And he wrote the book The Power of Now, which I know is a very famous book, but I'm reading his other book called A New Earth.
Yes.
And he has really helped me understand so much more about spirituality. And he's just opened that pathway with me, and he teaches so much about the Bible, but he also teaches so much about how you can open your consciousness to to the earth, let go of your ego. And he teaches these concepts that feel so abstract. They feel, how could I ever understand this? But he teaches them in such a simple way, and he shows that all of us are so interconnected, and that if one of us uplifts our consciousness and uplifts our awareness, we will all uplift our consciousness and awareness, and overall we can then change the entire world's consciousness and awareness.
Love that. I think I'm going to have to read that one. That sounds like a very good one. And then last question, and this one is about embarrassment. Okay, so another quote that I came upon, and it applies to, it could apply to what we do in life, your career, your craft, right? And so it goes. It says that embarrassment is the price of entry. And so if you're going to start something, you have to get used to the fact that you're probably going to be experience embarrassing moments at some point, right? And would you agree with this quote?
Yes.
And have you ever had any embarrassing moments in your line of work?
I would definitely agree with that quote. I really do believe at some point all of us are new at something.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, we're all going to be new at something.
True.
And that is going to force us to step out of our comfort zones.
Certainly.
And when we are not in that familiarity zone, we're going to feel embarrassed by something somehow along the way. And for me, I've definitely had my fair share of embarrassment. But the two that
we all though? Yeah.
The two that I can recall is one of my first clients. She was a woman in her 50s. And I was not expecting to have anyone above the age of like 25. I was not like planning for that at all. And I had this client, and she was complaining. She didn't know my age, not because I didn't want to share it. She just never asked. It wasn't something important for us to discuss. And so she had been complaining about her 21-year-old child and Gen Z, and complaining how, you know, Gen Z is the way they are and what they do, and they're glued to their phones, they don't connect with people. And I was like helping her through this process. And she had no idea that I was 21, but I was sitting there like almost giggling. Because I was just like, how do I hold myself together, knowing that I am a part of the said generation?
that is insane, yes.
I was just like, no.
But the irony of it, I mean, look at that.
And so she still never figured it out in the end. Like, I held myself together. But I was like, I felt so embarrassed because, not because of the generation, but I was just like, she has no idea that I'm
also that from that same generation, so to say. But it's interesting,
and my
so to speak.
other embarrassing moments are still happening is learning how to post on social media and getting over that fear of people judging me or saying something wrong or not looking great and just letting it all go, because I do. Sometimes I post a video and I'm like, oh my word, I'm cringing, like I'm so embarrassed, like what am I doing? And it's getting over that, because I have such a bigger purpose. I really have a greater purpose, and every single time I feel that embarrassment, I'm like, there's a bigger purpose to this, Jade. You're doing this for a reason. Let it go. Just let it go and embrace it.
And embrace it, right? Because I mean, I love what you've just shared. Embrace it. I'm one person, and I would say, you know, they'll call it imposter syndrome or whatever the term is, but I used to be so good at second guessing myself. Why? Because I want something to come out so perfectly, in my view, and I'm afraid also of making mistakes or failing at something, and I'm like, what will people say? What will it look like? And you know, and then I'd cringe at times. We have like, but you know what? At the end of the day, I still had to deliver, because it's so much bigger than us again. There's someone out there that is meant to learn from what you're about to share. There's someone who's waiting to just hear Jade say, this is what I've gone through.
Yeah.
And embarrassment aside, doesn't matter what people think. I am doing this not because I'm called for. It is my lived experience. It's no one else's, and no one else can understand it better than me.
And even with you saying that, like, you really touched on such a bigger topic with embarrassment, because
Yeah.
embarrassment is almost like the sugar coating that we put on top of an actual deep-rooted feeling, and the deep-rooted belief is, I'm not good enough. And so when you actually let go of I'm not good enough, or I'm not enough, or I am a failure, and you start actually working at that, you're like, there's no need to be embarrassed. There's absolutely no need. And it's such a deep-rooted thing that we give all of these like names to, like you said, like the imposter syndrome, the embarrassment. But at the end of the day, so many of us just have that underlying belief that I work on a lot with my clients all the time is, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of this attention. I cannot do this. I'm a failure. And when we have those beliefs, we have so many other things that end up stacking up on top of it, like imposter syndrome, like self-doubt, not trusting others, not trusting ourselves, embarrassment, and all of these things are almost like a domino effect just from that one belief.
Look at that.
And if you get rid of this belief and you work through it and you let it go, every day you just let it go, all of that goes away too.
I absolutely love that. And I'm hoping from our conversation that, and what you've shared, that there's, even if it's one person or hundreds of thousands, doesn't matter, that they can also say, look, Jade's story has inspired me, or it has moved something in me to become a better person, or to live up to who I'm meant to be. And the world will always try to put labels on people and condition, and you understand the world system, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But ultimately, you then decide who you are. Who am I? Who does God say I am?
Yeah.
Let's start from there, because, I mean, it's almost like a love letter when God reaffirms us of who we are, made in His perfect image and likeness.
Yeah.
The word perfect alone for me stands out in Him saying He sees no fault in His creation. Perfect. That is what God says.
Yeah.
Already, that should tell us that we are made in His likeness and image, and in His perfect. He means that there is nothing wrong with us. We shouldn't doubt ourselves. We shouldn't give in to what people say, especially negative things rather about who we are. Yes, we understand life and experiences. There's traumas, there's childhood things that people are still dealing with. But that is why it's important to, I say, run to your maker, the person who placed you here in the first place, and look at what He says you are and who He says you are. And it's important for me. I think that's what got me by. You know, because honestly, if we do things based on the world standards and what the world, because it's so volatile. It's one minute things are up, they're down, the next, you know. And I shared something with you yesterday. My niece sent, and I love that poster. And you know, saying, what does it say again? You are seeking validation from a world that crucified a perfect man. Come on. Come on. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why are we forever seeking validation? When validation comes from the true and living God, the creator of all things, who loves us unconditionally. And I'm reminded of God's love. And He said, He says in His word, what can separate you from my love? Absolutely nothing. You know, but I am looking forward to watching you grow from strength to strength, grace to grace, globally.
I hope so too.
Yes,
I have a lot of plans. Lots of plans.
Look, it's not impossible. It is. I mean, we understand there are times and seasons. God prepares you for a bigger stage, you know. And I'm really, really, like I said, so honored that you are here with us today at Impact. And we hope to see you again. And so Kind Conscious is your...
That's the company I started. So that's the website.
That's the website. Yes. Kind Conscious. And that's conscious spelled with a K.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. When I
Thank
saw
you.
that, I'm like, kind, conscious, okay, I like it. And that's where you obviously speak about your services and you speak about your life's experiences. And look, Jade, the world is your oyster. You're 21 years of age. You're young, young, but like I say, the word speaks about wonders and things that will come out from the mouths of babes, younger people. They will
Mm,
speak mysteries, they will interpret dreams.
mm,
So, why am I throwing bits of scripture around, of that scripture particularly? It's to say that um, it's not to say she's a 21-year-old, therefore, what can she teach me?
mm,
What can I get from a 21-year-old?
mm.
A lot, even from a younger one. And I wish you more strength, and may God bring the right people around you, who are helping you, destiny helpers, people who are assigned to your journey,
Thank
right?
you.
And I believe He will bring them your way. Sometimes we call these people forth through prayer. Indeed, it's important. And your guardian angels are there as well.
Mm,
So keep on doing what you're doing and your calling. And I'm excited for you. I really am. All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And I always say, be blessed, rule and reign. Yay!